What's going on, traders? How you guys doing in this market? Of course, Jerome Powell, FOMC, raising 25 basis points and continuing the fight against inflation. A lot of talk, of course, on financials and regional banks in the meeting. Right now, that's still going on. So I just said, you know what? Let me get this started. Let's start taking a look at the market. Let's see if we get a dumping Powell or a pumping Powell. Seems like we're getting a dumping Powell right now, but let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the market, see how we've reacted since the meeting. Let's take a look here. And of course, it seems like it's a mixed bag, right? You're seeing up, down here. We'll see what happens if this can continue, kind of pushing forward here. It did get up at first, a little bit of a spike to 413.50s, but really we've gone nowhere. Really, I mean, I think that we're going to be paying attention now to see if we get some declining action, because a little part of me is starting to lean on a turnaround. And I know that I was starting to get towards the bullish side, but it just seems like the regional bank scare is coming in and really going to start shaking things up. As we speak, I'm starting to see NVIDIA go down. I'm willing to take a shot on NVIDIA short side. I know that there's a lot of people probably thinking, man, you really want to go short NVIDIA? Well, the truth is that it seems to me like a chart that's just way too extended on the upside, definitely pushing towards the top. But we'll see what happens today. I haven't taken it right now. I did take it earlier in the day, and I was able to make a really good trade, and then I ended up giving some back. So I'm fighting myself right now. I could take the shot, but we'll see what happens. SQQQ is also looking interesting for me as it starts to kind of rise a little bit out of this. We'll keep watch. Right now, I got no positions on for the swing trade, but want to keep watch. One thing that told me a little bit more concern in tech was I started seeing AMD coming down and staying down. It didn't come back today. And so with that being said, I could see this trade turn around, the technology trade, the SOX trade, right? The SOX S. We'll see what happens really. Semiconductors have been hanging on and been really a strong area for the year. But will they start to turn around? That's one thing that we need to keep on watch. And a lot of that is going to be what? Financial services, right? What happens there? Today, we actually made a move up, now starting to make a move down towards the end of the day. So like Bank of America starting to come back down. Goldman Sachs looks like it wants to keep coming down here. So today, I'm willing to take a shot. Goldman Sachs did do a little bit of a pop-up here off the 335. I don't mind taking a shot on this one here as Goldman Sachs goes lower here. We'll take a shot here. This is a little bit more of an expensive stock, so I got to give myself a little bit of room here. Let's see if I can get into the let's see if I can get 332.20s here. I'm looking at it right now. Got about 15 on the bid here, but I'm going to take the shot here. Just want to see a little bit of a push back here towards the 333s, but doesn't look like we're going to get it. So I'm just going to jump in here, see what I can get. There you guys have it. I got 332.14 there. We'll see what happens on Goldman Sachs. Taking a little bit of a short here on Goldman Sachs. I've been watching this one for a little bit of a while now. We're closer towards right here around the 13s and 14s. We'll look to see if this can continue down and go lower. Now, one thing that I will be watching is kind of like a rectangle area. As long as this can kind of stay in this and not get back above 335, I'll look for the breakdown through the 330s and going lower. I could see it going to 328 and still lower than that. Maybe 320s comes into play. Goldman Sachs, JPM coming down here at the close. Another way to look at this in the day trading aspect would be to maybe look at like an FAZ type of trade. I was looking at that earlier on in the day, and now that's starting to make a nice little jump up. Been focusing on the daily chart on FAZ as this looks like it wants to get through 22 and continue higher. There's 22 right now. So I could just do a day trade on this action here. But of course, you guys know this is start swing trading. So I'm just going to let this one go right here. But look at this nice little pattern here. Nice little pattern there on FAZ. Nice little declining trend line, bottom, horizontal line, ascending triangle. Let's see what happens here. If we can get this pushed through towards the 2250s. Next stop for me is up 2216s, FAZ, as we start to see some downside action. And there's the SPY starting to let go. So I'm seeing what I kind of expected. SQQQs also coming down here. Have no problem taking a little bit of the SQQQs on a swing trade off the 29. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of that here to see what happens here. I'll take a little bit here at the 290, 29.98. Sorry about that, team. I just took a little bit there just to get a little bit of a starter. Won't mind if it pulls back here towards the kind of the 29.60s area, and then I'll look to add, but not a lot of going higher. Another trade I can look at is SOXS. That's already getting back to the VWAP. We'll see what happens on this one. And of course, big reports tonight. Qualcomm, we'll see what happens on that one. You can see how that's starting to let go. NVIDIA also doesn't look too bad there. It is starting to let go. I'm going to probably stay off of NVIDIA today, but we'll see if this can keep coming lower. Good to see you guys in the chat. What's going on out there? Benny, Milky Fade. I know a lot of people are still tuned in, of course, to the FOMC meeting. Can't blame you. The conference still going on there. We'll see when that wraps up, but definitely the market's starting to take a downturn here. And one that I've been looking at also, Meta, had a huge up move, but will it fill the gap on the downside? That's one thing that I'm looking at. And of course, one thing that is good when you're all the way up here, you kind of know you're out, right? Above kind of like 243 is going into the 245 range. Yeah, I would definitely want to be out on Meta, but it could do a little bit of a gap fill. Doesn't look too bad there on the downside action. Did do an earlier break at 1 p.m. to the downside. And I don't know if that was news related, but Meta doesn't look like a bad target here for it to come right back to its 233s and maybe the 230s. Kind of fill the gap to the downside. Gap could fill down there towards 214. So if that does fill, doesn't mean that I think that it's going to 200, but who knows? Maybe we can get this to kind of at least make the pullback to the 220s. Meta for a little bit of a turnaround. We'll see what happens. Mod says, I couldn't watch it anymore. And I agree. I was watching it too. I said, you know what? Let me push the stream back about 5 minutes at least so that I can give you guys a little bit more time to kind of finish catching up on that. But I didn't see much difference being talked about, right? It's the same thing being talked about. And he still doesn't even say that it's sufficiently restrictive enough. They just keep saying what? Data dependent. Well, data dependent doesn't mean crap to me, right? I mean, it doesn't mean crap to me. It just means that what? That you're going to keep taking it at a month-to-month approach. That's all you're giving us. So you're really not giving us the outlook of what you're looking forward. What you're pretty much saying is we don't know what's going to happen. So we are going to stay on what? The interest rates rising, and we're not going to pause, and we're not even going to tell you that we can't raise in the next meeting. We're just going to continue this path forward. And that's why I think that a lot of traders might have it wrong when they think that we're going to get a pivot this year. If anything, I think that, yes, they might go to a pause, but that pause might last for over a year. That's what I think really could happen here. And the big reason why is, of course, we know what happens next year, right? You start getting elections to come back. And will, of course, Jerome Powell maybe wait until close to, of course, the presidential elections for Biden to be like, knock, knock, knock. Oh, yeah, it's time. Let's go ahead and cut the rates now. And I think that that's what could be happening, right? And of course, bank concerns could be kind of turning this around. And yes, if the banks really get crushed, they will pivot, right? If they need to pivot to save the economy, they will. But will they be late to saving, right? Will they be kind of in a wait and see mode? That's exactly what they're telling us. They're going to be in a wait and see mode. And so what could happen is there could be a lot of destruction before they even get to pivoting. So something to keep on watch. We'll see what happens, right? All right, solid point, says Milky Fade. Hey, we'll see what happens, right? I always look at presidential elections as being something that could be a driver. And a lot of times the year prior, you're getting more indecision because we just don't know who's going to be leading fiscal policy in 2024 and beyond, right? Well, 24, we know that, but kind of 25 and beyond, right? We don't know which way it's going to be moving. And for right now, Bank of America starting to come right back down here. 28s, not looking that great. GS already giving me good profits. Look at that move already to 330 60s. So nice little first action here in GS. Glad I didn't struggle to take the shot. I just said, you know what? Let's take the shot out to 335. We'll see what happens there. I agree. No pivot until something breaks. Yeah. And if nothing does break, do they just stay on the sidelines? I would say yes, until inflation gets to maybe like 3 or maybe 4%, but I would say more closer towards 3%, and they just stay on the sideline. waiting and hoping that inflation could come down. Another trade that I was focusing on today was XOM. And the reason why I wanted to focus on XOM is I thought this could actually have a good day today. And you can see it's not having a good day. It can't even bounce too much here. So I'm going to take a look at some other ones here to see how they're performing on the day. But I did want to get short some oil names, but I'm looking for a little bit of a bounce to get short into. Right now, these look really weak, and they are continuing on the downside action. Let me take a look at WTI today to see where we're at on the crude right now. We're at like 68.75. We got as low as like 68.06. We'll see what happens on crude if it can continue going lower. But you guys know I've been talking about it right here. Of course, start swing trading. I've been talking about what? Oil comes back down below 72. That's when we would start seeing the oils really give up. And what happened today? Yes, we cut right back through the 70s and then right back through the 72s like it's water. And it just went right through it, man. It went down there to 68.06 from that kind of 71.60 area and just kept coming down. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, OPEC was able to get this to spike up again, but will they always be able to get this to spike up? Or will we see what usually happens, which is eventually oil starts to turn and starts to make its way back to the bottom end of the range? That's what I'm going to keep on watch. And these stocks are definitely falling off the cliff. So I know a lot of people expect Warren Buffett to buy some more at the 57s. I'll tell you right now, Oxy looks like it's falling off a cliff. But to each his own. If you guys like it and you guys think Warren can get it back up, hey, we'll see what happens there. Definitely made it a little bit of a spike up, got right back up there, and then right back down. We'll see what happens to these names and keep pushing. All right, let's go into what was hot and what was not. We can definitely take some more trades. I did take that SQQQ. Let's go back to that, see if I can add to this. As I am in a little bit into the red, I took the 298, 29.98s, looking to add here towards the 60s, but doesn't look too bad right now. It is pulling back a little bit. Let's see if this takes another step through the 30s. I'd like a nice little pullback here to the 70s, 60s to add. But, of course, not going to add too high up here because I'm looking for the pullback to maybe size in. Right now, if I only have that first size, I can let it work from here. All right, let's continue going. Let's go into what was hot and what was not today. Of course, the leading sector to the upside was healthcare. Healthcare not looking too bad as it continues to raise after a recent kind of push. Of course, this looks like it wants to take the next step up. I'm going to continue watching to see what happens in healthcare overall, but there were some really good ones today. Of course, leading the sector overall was Eli Lilly after good news on their Alzheimer's drug, and it looks like it's continuing to push. Do you guys remember we were looking at this one all the way down here, and I still have the lines drawn? That's why I like drawing my lines, team. And you guys see me draw lines all the time. There's a big reason why, because I like how TC has dates for me. And I'll show you guys this right now. I'm sorry that I put it full screen. It kind of ruined the screen there. There you go. Fixed it up. So you guys see how right here in this box here, we were definitely looking for Eli Lilly to make that kind of bottoming action. I tried to get in this one at the 330s, was risking off the 330s, 325s, eventually got stopped out. And this one eventually going down to the 311s, then really kind of ripping off. I think it's very important to kind of catch opportunities like this. You guys see it. This definitely took off. I created this on February 24th. And then you guys really, I mean, look at the move that it did from there. That's a nice 40% move there in Eli Lilly that I missed out on. And learning lessons, right? I was looking at drug manufacturers. I really like the story behind Eli Lilly because why? Because they have the Alzheimer's drug and they, of course, have the weight loss drug. So they have a lot of things in the pipeline. This is what we need to be thinking when we're thinking drug manufacturers. What's in the pipeline and what's coming down the line? And this actually affected Biogen a little bit here in the pre-market, but that was quickly bought right back up. We'll see what happens to these biotechs and, of course, the healthcare drug manufacturers, the big boys. Another one that I'm looking at right now, Johnson & Johnson pulling back a little bit. We'll see what happens if this one does have the tendency to come back and fill the gap. Merck continuing on the upside. This is another one that we were looking at on the pullback, but has already kind of taken off AbbVie, ugly turnaround in that one. So you are seeing a little bit of a turnaround in some of these names. And Pfizer, no bueno. Still got a little bit of some downturn to go here. And Pfizer could be going lower. Of course, we heard all about the vaccines and how the demand is going lower. All right, let's keep going. Haha, my account just went solid green. Let's go. Get it. Get it, Captain. Get it. We'll see what happens out there. Let's go back to the SQQQs. Goldman Sachs working well for me here. There's the SQQQs taking off there through the 30-15. So don't look too bad on that one. That's going to be a little bit more of a swing trade outlook here on the SQQs. We'll see what happens on that one. Can it take the next step up and continue pushing higher? Not looking too bad there. Could also go after NVIDIA here, but it's already going lower. I would have got this one at like kind of 281s. I'm already there towards the 279s, and it is cutting lower. Big part of this is going to be watching what happens to Apple, but look how they're selling off Apple here. And the SPY overall selling off a little bit here. Now the 408.80s, that's looking really great there for the SQQQs as we're up there towards the 30-20s. And Goldman Sachs almost up a full % already on this trade. And we just opened this live right here, team. You guys smash it up. Let's go. All right, let's keep going. We'll take a look at what else is making moves out there. Moderna going lower. Yes, it doesn't look good out there for a lot of stocks. If you're looking for stocks to go lower in this environment, yeah, they can. So, of course, we were looking at what stocks were doing well. We looked into some healthcare names, communication services, but now you're really starting to get some stocks into the red. Look how financial services is ending the day here. Yes, it was climbing a little bit of the worry here out the open. It climbed up, came back down at 12. Climbed up again towards 2, 3. Now smackdown in the financial services. JPM down. Bank of America down. Citigroup down. Let's go to the KRE. Let's see the regional banks. They're taking a hit down here. And a lot of these might turn right back into the red. MTB back to the red. TFC back into the red. There's a lot of these starting to get hit. Regional financials, region financials, HBAN. All of them taking a beating after, of course, bouncing back a little bit today. And so I could see these continue to go lower. And that's why I'm also thinking about FAZ. Look at that one. Nice little takeoff into the 22.25s. I'm going to watch this one on the daily. Nice little move through the 22s and really starting to push right back to where we used to be, where we were up there towards 25 on FAZ. All right, let's keep going. We'll see what else is going on here, but definitely some more downside action coming in. Financial services, industrials, not looking good either. Let's get into some of those. Honeywell is still one that I'm still keeping an eye on. It did pull back below the 200, tried to make a move today, couldn't do it. GE continuing higher, though. That one can't stop, won't stop. Let's go to Deere and CAT. Let's see how those are doing today. Deere is up about 0.3% overall. And not looking too bad as it bounces back a little bit, but it could just get faded out here. This is all going to be more dependent on what happens on the overall market. Captain Kirk says, short it until you see whites in their eyes. We'll see, man. We'll see. If we keep going that downside action, it does look good there. SQQQ's pulling back now, though, after a nice little push on the first move. You can see we made it up there towards kind of the 30-22s. Now we're right back down. We'll look to see if this can take that next step up through the 30s. All right, overall, SPY comes down here now, finding a little bit of some bounce. So we'll look to see if it recovers back to the 412s and makes its way right back up. Armor Plate says short Tesla. That one doesn't look too bad. That one's really strong out the gates today. Now coming right back down from that 165 spot. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on this. There's kind of resistance that's coming into play here on Tesla around the 166 level. It just doesn't seem to want to hold right now. We'll see what happens with Tesla if it does get back above that 166 level. I mean, Tesla's one of those that, you know, I've been thinking, will it get up here into the 180s? I think this is all going to be dependent if the market can just hang on. SPY overall at 410s, 42s. And we're really starting to like kind of pull away from the highs, right? Like we were up there looking like we wanted to break out, looking like we wanted to get right back into that 420. And you can see how we're kind of rejecting the 417s multiple times, coming right back down. Apple's going to be very vital. If Apple doesn't have a good report, will we be back down there towards kind of the 403s, 405 outlook and start to see some profit taking in the technology names? We'll find out about that. Of course, stick around, team. We got a option Mike joining us in about 4 minutes, so don't go anywhere, team. We got a lot more for you right here on Benzinga. All right, let's see what else is being mentioned in the chat. What do you guys got out there? If you guys got a name you guys are looking at, definitely throw it up. UVXY, that's what you like to trade? UVXY, I don't even think I have it here. Let's see. All right, there you go. You like to trade this one? I personally don't trade the VIX often here. I mean, you guys can see that kind of getting a little bit of a push there, but hey, not a bad little push there into the 380s. We'll see if that can keep moving. Of course, see if the market keeps moving down, right? Energy overall in the red too. There's a lot in the red now, starting to get into that leak. Industrials, energy, basic materials, and financial services. We'll look to see if financial services can catch a bounce. That's really my area to kind of watch, right? Because if JP Morgan is just going to start getting hit hard, well, I would expect to see some more bank destruction coming in. And look how the turnaround has been on JPM. Even though they got that nice news on Monday, well, they're coming right back down and could start getting hit even harder. We'll see if it ever goes back into this gap zone through the 134s, 134.82 level. What happened to Meta earlier? Yeah, I feel like this was news related. I can take a look there. I'd have to pull up my Benzinga Pro to see if there was something else here. Let me go ahead and pull it up right quick here. I got it up to my right-hand side, so just give me a second here. Looks like there was some policy communications, say vigorous fight for FTC action. So the FTC proposing blanket prohibition preventing Facebook from monetizing youth data. So that's actually pretty important there. And that could actually really start to hit Facebook in the long run. I actually like Meta for a short, maybe filling the gap. And especially if there's going to be some negative news like this, you know what? I actually don't mind this outlook here at all. Let's go ahead. Let's take a little bit of a shot here. I'm going to take a little bit of a starter on Meta short. Just got a little bit there, 236.68. So I'll add on this back towards like kind of 239 range. But I'm really looking for the takedown into the gap zone. The gap zone's right underneath here. Now you can see we're starting to approach it. And now I'm going to look to see if we can really kind of crack down into that zone, get right back towards maybe the 220 area on Meta. But I'm taking shots here. We'll see what happens, team. All right, let's go ahead. Armored Plates wants me to check out SMCI. I'll check that one out. But I got someone in the back that probably knows a lot more about what's going on in some of these tech names also. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them on here. You guys definitely Armored Plates. We'll take a look at SMCI a little bit later. Just stick around. We got a lot more for you guys. Let's see what we can get into. All right, let me bring on my man Option Mike to see what he's looking at in the market. How we doing, Option Mike?
Mitch, how are you? Benzinga Nation. Do you want some more Jerome Powell speech, man? Have we had enough yet?
No, man. You know it. It got to about 3 o'clock, and I was like, man, I just can't listen to this anymore. But it's the same question after the same questions, it seems like, meeting after meeting, right? Concerned about the financial banks, still fighting inflation, still saying that they're not sufficiently restrictive enough. He doesn't want to say those words, but
what you have to realize here is that the Fed loves being the center of attention. They've been the center of attention now forever. Yeah. So, maybe they don't want to give up power. You have to take this meeting as, while they certainly put some language in that indicated that they could pause, they wouldn't use the word pause, but Powell was extremely hawkish on his conference call. And the market's reacting here. And the one thing I've learned over the years is typically when we sell off after Powell, and if we close into the close, we typically get followed through in that direction. And really what this does, unfortunately for us as traders, guys, is it keeps the next Fed meeting becomes important again. It keeps this cycle moving forward. And this market has had enough of the Fed. And the one thing I've been saying for a while is this current Fed is not the friend of the market. It used to be, it has not been for a while now. So this Fed doesn't care, and they're just stubborn. I can't say it much better than that.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, it does become the concern, right? I mean, we're still going to be watching to see what happens now with the Fed instead of just giving us a clear-cut guideline, right? Hey, yes, we've made it to this level. This is where we thought restrictive was. So we're going to stick to this level here and then see what plays out further down the line. No, they gave us we could still raise next meeting. Don't forget that. Well, and I think that's of course what, like exactly you're saying, Option Mike, staying in the headlines, staying important. And that's why I also think that we could go into a moment where they go on a pause and they wait for that next election really close. I mean, it ain't too far.
You got a year and a half, right? A year and a half, yeah. I don't know. I try to. Well, I know politics can get into it. I do my best to leave politics out of trading because it usually doesn't help us trade, right? It doesn't. It doesn't. So I try to take that and throw that aside. I mean, the one thing I did take away from this is listening to him talk a couple of times is they desperately want to get down to 2% inflation. They're more worried about inflation than the banking crisis right now, which may turn out to be a really bad thing at the end of the day, what's going on there. And they're starting to break things. Now, it's not the Fed's fault that these banks screwed up, right? The Fed gave much fair warning that they were going to raise rates. They raised them faster than anybody thought, but these banks did not manage the risk well, and that's why we're in with these 3 banks gone that we are. It just, unfortunately, on the market just is not happy here at all. Not happy with this at all.
Yeah, let's take a look into it. Let's see what we're seeing in the markets. Let's see what we're seeing in the action right now. We're still leaking down here a little bit here. I'm going to bring up your charts, Option Mike. You can run us through some of these. What do you got for us today?
Oh, I mean, let's just start with the SPY, and this is important.
Of course.
We've been stuck in this chop range now for the better part of 5 weeks. And, for me, I've been trying to watch. Let me get an inspection here. So, this is the area I've been looking for in this little gap to fill. And I thought we can get there today. The one thing that I was surprised at today is the options market priced this right. The damn market makers. Everybody was saying we're going to get a 2 to a 3% rate high move today in the markets, one way or the other. The SPX, when I came on this morning, was only implying a $34 move. That's like nothing. That's like a 1% move. The market makers nailed it through most of the day on the daily options. Go figure, they were right again. If we cannot hold the low here, we have a possibility coming down and retesting the 50-day in this area down here around 403, and that's an important spot to watch. And this 415 area has been just a bear to get through. So the other thing, like the Qs have a little bit better of a look to it. You have this nice little tabletop we were trying to break out above here, this little 5-week pattern, and some of the names there have been stronger. And obviously, you brought it up. We have Apple tomorrow night. Apple, I cannot say enough how much bigger that's going to be, and I am personally a little bit worried about Apple tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, last report, right? They gave us that bad kind of China news, but will negative China news be able to save it this time? I don't know if that's going to be able to save it. How's that demand for the iPhones? I haven't heard too much about that. But
to me, it was Samsung. Samsung came out and they talked about how hard their phone sales were down, right? So
yeah.
I say this to people. I mean, I don't know about you, Mitch. Here's my Google 5A, which is now a little over a year old, but Pixel. But how most people can get 3 years plus out of a phone now. You don't need if the technology is so good, you don't need a new phone all the time, right? It's not like I need to go out and say I need to have a new phone every 2 years because it needs faster, more memory. I mean, the camera's getting marginally better, the software increasing, but they're just not there. So if Apple's going to do well this quarter, it's probably not going to be iPhones. We know it's not PCs. We know PC sales and Mac sales are way off. 40% was one estimate on the Mac sales. So it's going to have to be in the services department. So I don't know if that's going to be enough to lift them here. That's the question.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of the stocks that I actually saw for a little while there as one of the most bullish stocks in the market because it was rising. And when you think about it, since January, this thing is up about 36%.
Dude, so it's not far from all-time highs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's one of the stronger names. And even right now, today, it's still above the 8-day. It's still trading well. So, to me, I like it still, but we got to see what they say. I mean, we know they won't guide. For me, I can't keep going. But, what I look at earnings names. And I look at how they react and what's good, what's bad. And so Microsoft continues to be probably the best name in earnings we had this quarter so far. I mean, if you take away the JP Morgan beat, but there's too much angst in the banks right now. So you have to either avoid them or just play small. So one thing they did, as we talked about, they said AI about 1,000 times in that call. But what they did with AI is they told how they were going to integrate it and work to make more money and how using it to make money with their products and their selling offerings. Whereas everybody else saying AI was just throwing the word AI in there because they felt they needed to. So you look at this chart, you got this beautiful 3-day move and this nice little bull flag here. Now it's, it's showing some weakness, but it hasn't even touched the 8-day yet in over a week. So it can come down, connect with the 8-day, and then go on and still be strong. So I mean, it still has room to come down to the 300 area and do absolutely no damage to the chart. I think this one goes higher and probably goes and tries to take out the all-time highs if this market doesn't come crashing in. And that's the big thing here, how we react to this.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of them that I will keep an eye on, of course, for, let's say, if we get some Apple weakness and maybe it recovers during the intraday, I would look at a stock like this too. I hear what you're saying there, Mike, and I can see it also. 300 does make sense for the little pullback, but it also makes sense to find some buy the dippers there. So we'll see what happens there on Microsoft. And I like how you brought up the earnings report there, because it is important, right? We need to be looking into these companies to see if they're really going to be a actual monetary move towards the bottom line from the AI, or is it just something that they're going to talk about and not something that we can actually see going towards that bottom line? So good outlook there. Definitely. This is one to watch. Microsoft has been, really kind of turned things around, right? I mean, ever since kind of that 250 hit, we were down there towards 250 for a while, and then we got up towards 270. Yeah, I mean, and then really recovered since then.
So, and the one concern I have with this market right now specifically is the lack of a broad-based leadership or names are moving. And if you really look, it's been Microsoft, it's been Meta, it's been Apple, it's been Nvidia. You could throw a couple other names in there here and there, but for the most part, there's very few names that seem to be doing the heavy lifting in this market. And ultimately, if that doesn't broaden out, that's usually a recipe for a disaster in the market. So I'm very cautious here right now, especially with the Fed being as hawkish as they are today. On top of that, you have the whole Russia news today, which is just bizarre. And you have to watch how that plays out, because when you accuse another nation of trying to assassinate your leader, especially the size of Russia, that typically leads to bad things. So we need to be cognizant if that's going on or if that quiets down. So don't lose track of that. The headlines today, everybody kind of did. We talked Meta. You talked Meta briefly. I've been loving Meta. So that news today was like, we got it quickly here, and I got it up quickly. But so the idea is that the FTC wants to limit. It's not just going to affect them; it's going to affect Snap and Pinterest. Oh yeah, and Google and Apple and Amazon,
TikTok.
Anybody that sells advertising, or it's all of them. But what Meta does so well is they customize their ads to you. If you ever want to try to buy an ad on Meta, I've done some trials of it. They basically are watching everything you do and listening to everything you're going on, and they will target your ads to you, and they're also, by the way, on your phone. They're watching everything you're doing on your phone. By the way, whether you realize it or not, they are, when you put Meta or Facebook on your phone and Instagram, it allows them to see everything you do on the phone. They're just not allowed to give that data out, but they can use it in generating their ads. So this would change their ability to target ads. However, they're going to sue to block it, and this is going to take forever. So you get a knee-jerk reaction here. They had a great report. They guided up. The stock is really doing well. They're money's coming back to it. They're generating it. So I think for the moment this is a blip, because again, it's going to go into that lawsuit phase, and it'll get lost in translation as this goes on. And then Microsoft and Amazon and Apple and Google, and they're all going to join in and come after them with this. They're not going to want to let this happen. So I think this is a good name on a dip. That said, watch the 8-day, because if you don't hold the 8-day, we could come down to the 21-day and fill a lot of this gap, and especially if the market's weak.
Yeah, I took a position short on it, but the big thing for me also is in Meta is that the overall outlook for long term is not good for social media. I think regulation's really coming for it, right? I mean,
they're trying.
They're really trying to go after it, right? I mean, let's just be honest. They're getting to the point where they're like, they want to step in, right? Especially when it comes to something like this, where it's at the teen level or the younger kind of consumer level. They want to protect the kids. They want to protect the teens out there. So in the long run, I do see this as something that can impact social media overall. Of course, Meta is one of the leaders in the advertising space. I'll also kind of pay attention to see if maybe this does play into kind of hurting like stocks like the Trade Desk that does a lot of programmatic advertising.
Roku, Trade Desk, right? Even Netflix now with what they're starting to do, right? Yeah,
exactly. So there's a lot of advertising, and there's a battle for data, right? And of course, The bigger boys will battle back for that because they want to keep having their data that's really giving them the advantage, right? Let's just be honest. It's giving them the advantage. It's given targeting for advertising that really gets to you. And I mean, I always laugh because I always like, I don't know about you if this happens to you, Mike, but I'll be like just doing the smallest little search on something. And all of a sudden, all my ads, or I'll be on YouTube, they'll be advertising this and this on my TV.
On YouTube, I see videos now. If something I looked it up on Google or was looking at something on it, now I see videos on it. Not even advertisements, just videos about it. It's like,
yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible how they can really quickly grab a little bit of data and expand on it with you. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at what else is going on. How do you feel about the bank situation? Are you really concerned?
I am more concerned than the last time I was on 2 weeks ago because of the failure of First Republic, and there just seems to be angst there. So, again, JP Morgan, best in breed. Here's the thing. JP Morgan is not going to be allowed to buy another one of these banks, right? This was a one-off deal because they needed saving. I continue to say, if you really feel you need to dip your foot into this space, trade KRE. I got people saying, oh, I want to buy one of these regional banks. I don't know here. I would just, look at this chart. This chart is telling a different story. This chart is saying we have big problems, right? Big problems on that. Key, which I always thought was a good regional bank, is getting absolutely destroyed, right? And when you look at some of these bigger that we thought were good regional banks getting destroyed, I just don't want anything to do with them. And I think I would just avoid them for now. If you have to trade them, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, if you want to own them, these are best in breed type names. But these little world guys.
Yeah, and I think that, one thing that I've been looking at is, these regional banks, they look atrocious. I mean, no one could tell me these charts look like something that is just like a full-on bullish move. If anything, they just look like they're breaking through support and now starting to gear up for the next move. I've been looking at some of the bigger names also starting to even get concerned about stocks like Bank of America, because Bank of America didn't really go up like JPM did. JPM kind of made its way all the way back, but Bank of America just bounced a little bit, got up there to the 30s, and now it's right back towards the 27 area where it could start going through some of these lows.
Because what Bank of America and Wells Fargo and Citi require on a little more heavily than a JP Morgan or a Goldman or Morgan Stanley is they count on deposits and interest rates and to make money off the spreads on interest rates, which right now it's very hard for banks to make money off it as they're too tight. Whereas JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley, they make most of their profits off their trading houses, which they've unleashed the living hell out of algos upon us in this market for the last year and a half, and they're having all record profits off, right? So, that's why you're seeing these banks struggling more, whereas, JP Morgan, strong, Goldman, and Morgan Stanley. Now, Bank of America did have their best quarter, I think they said in 10 plus years for trading revenue, but not enough.
Yeah, not enough. And I'm just going to keep watch on these. It's not even like I would go after the bigger banks, right? I mean, Bank of America is just right down there. I don't think that's going to be one that I'd go after, but something that I'll keep on watch, right? Because if Bank of America starts going back down to, let's say, $20, $15, there's going to be some real concern out there, right? I mean, that's no longer regional bank scare. That's now global bank scare. And then you'll start seeing probably the pivot that people are talking about, right? I mean, that would really start shaking things up.
Well, I mean, again, you look what's going on out there. Crude is getting demolished. The metals are down. CAT's been having problems, bounced back a bit. I mean, the market's saying it sees a recession coming. I know Powell said today in his mind we're not going to have one, but everybody else is saying we see some type of recession. I mean, CAT, this is an ugly chart. I mean, it didn't do much off of earnings. It came back up, but couldn't get through the 21-day. We use USO for crude. I mean, that huge pop off of all those OPEC plus cups, not only we give it back, we give it back and then a ton here. I mean, crude's getting just destroyed. So there's lots of problems out there right now in this market. And again, I keep talking about there's just not enough. We need broader leadership. So we're losing the energy market right now. The banks are struggling. While tech has been stronger, it's been thin. We're not getting that big. So where is this going to come from and where do you want to swing here? So I think it's a time to be a little careful. If you have good profits in something, either take it or move into protect it. Sell some calls against the stock you have, buy some puts on it or some hedge, you do a hedge position here, but I'm not sure this is a time to be buying hand over fist here. as this market's saying it's not sure. I've been trying to be very bullish on this market. I think you know that I talked to, but this action, we can't get out of this range, and this range is going to wear a lot of people out, and it'll chop you to shreds if you're not careful. So, you just kind of have to keep looking at it.
We were looking good there, and I think that it was going to be all about, was the bank scare going to come back into play, or something macro related, some headwinds coming back into play, and I feel like that's what happened here, right? Yeah. Other than if that didn't come through, if we didn't see another regional bank get hit, I think, we could have probably had that kind of liftoff mode, especially the technology names. We could clearly see it, right? But after that point, I would agree with you, Option Mike. You're seeing some hedging start taking. You're seeing some profit taking, and you can't blame them, because now there's starting to be some more headwinds that are really present and affecting the stocks. And this could turn around the strong technology trade that we see on right now, which is really kind of lifting all tides right now, which is the turnaround that we've seen in some of these technology names, even though they're trading some of these at 60 times price earnings. It doesn't matter. Right. Because the truth is that they get the appreciation, and these technology names do get that appreciation. But now we're starting to see, again, some worries. And what usually happens? Well, they go running to the checkbook, right? Go cash that check, and then start looking to see if we get some decline or not. That's why I think that, we could see the pullback action come in. And then it's just going to more depend if this regional bank scare kind of expands. That's what's the focus.
I think
now.
That's huge here in the focus at this point. The other thing is, I'll give you got this thought. The semis, the one thing that was consistent through all their conference calls, if you actually take the time to get on their calls, was they were all kind of fuzzy on guidance. They were all talking about the macro environment. They weren't sure. There were a lot of uncertainty ahead. That came out really clear on AMD's call last night. And Lisa's a straight shooter. She didn't kind of mince words. She didn't say AI a lot. She just kind of talked about, this is what good, this wasn't so good. And we're guiding to the low end of guidance for next quarter. And we think we're still a strong second half company, but it's about the macro environment. And you heard that from Lam Research. You heard it from Intel to a certain extent. You heard it from all these companies. And there's definitely some concerns out there in the chip space that, we're all hoping they've bottomed, they're ready to run, but it's their guidance has not been great. So, if the market thinks we're going to go into recession towards the end of this year, then I find it hard to believe these chip names are going to be a second half story, because if we're going to recession, people aren't buying high-end chips.
Yeah, and I think take a look at how Qualcomm is reacting today. I don't know if you saw that one. It does report earnings after the bell today, but man, that doesn't make me feel confident about this earnings report that's going to come out tonight. And we saw AMD, show some weakness. Of course, Qualcomm more on that business, on the B2B side, but if they show weakness too, that also just tells us a little bit about on that side, right? And so it doesn't look great.
And then there's one, right? Last chip name standing would be NVIDIA. And that's because everybody's expecting big conversations about AI from NVIDIA.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting too. I mean, what will happen when NVIDIA kind of gets out there, right? I mean, one of the things that I've been looking at is NVIDIA is getting so appreciated here. But the truth is that, I mean, have they really kind of kicked off on AI? I mean, this is more futuristic kind of thinking, right? Of course, they're going to be the leaders. I think there will be a leader.
Well, they make one of the best chips. Most people buy their chips for AI, so they're going to talk about that a ton.
Yeah, and the key is, though, is how much will that come into play right now, right? In the next year or two, right? That's what I think is where this is also like those other hype words that we've heard in the past, like the metaverse, like NFTs, right? They come in hot, they give stocks lift, and then eventually what happens? Well, the truth is we start looking at these and the technologies are more playing down the line than right now in this time period. So I think that this is another one that, definitely it's gotten the lift, it's gotten the appreciation. But if NVIDIA turns around, Apple gives us a bad report, and we start to see like Qualcomm giving bad reports, AMD giving bad report. Micron's report wasn't the best. It went up on it, but it wasn't the best either.
No, but Micron's almost never the best anymore.
Yeah, definitely on that one. So like Micron's action right now, you can see it. It's coming down here. And I've been looking at this one like, well, I mean, this one never really got back up. So,
this 64 area has just been a beast. You could take it back for the last year, 64 through 65. It's just, you can't get through it.
So we'll see what happens with these technology names. Is there any other industry or sector that you kind of like in this
I'll
time
give you
right
one,
now?
and I got to run because I got to get out, set up
Let's
for
do
earnings
it.
here for the
Yeah,
room.
of
But
course.
I will say I thought Ford's report was really good off of there, and I've
Ford.
been trumping this for a while. But they had a huge beat. You want to take the negative away from Ford, it was that they're starting to see pressure on prices. Well, for the last couple of years, they've been able to charge whatever they want because there was a shortage of cars out there. But the interest rates up, people can't afford cars as much now, so they're not buying them as often. So what you're starting to see is some discounting of cars, and you're going to see that with Ford now, where they start offering discounts or interest rate reductions again. So they're getting back into that, but their demand was still strong. They're still producing cars. They're still having supply chain issues. If they get at that, I'd really like this company to eventually work its way back up here. But it's such a slow mover. You could put GM in that same boat. But I think these guys are keen to keep your eyes on as we move forward, especially as these supply chain issues finally abate.
We'll see what happens there. I'll let you get out of here, Option Mike. You guys keep up with everything Option Mike does. I'll throw up his link in the chat. You have a good one, Mike. We'll see you next
Thanks,
time, my
guys. Have a
friend.
good
Take
one.
care. All right, Mike is out of here. You guys smash the like button. Definitely give my man a follow on Twitter if you're not already following. And you can check out his YouTube. He does great reviews. Like always, you guys check them out. I'll throw up his Twitter right here. And let's throw up his YouTube also. Why not? Let's give my man some subscriber help also on YouTube. And if you guys want to check him out, definitely check him out there. YouTube, Option Mike. There's the links. You guys can hit him and give him a follow, of course. All right, let's go back into the market. Let's take a look at what's going on here towards the close. Of course, I did take some positions here just as we were opening the market, and Meta now back a little bit into the red here with Meta. And so I don't mind adding towards kind of like 239. So I'm going to leave my position right now. Goldman Sachs up over 1% already on this trade. So I could take some profits on this one right now, but I'm looking so good. I'm going to hold this one overnight. We'll see what happens. Goldman Sachs got this one at 332.14. And then the SQQQ's not looking like the best, but doesn't look bad. Getting up at 30.36. And we're going to look to see if this one can continue going. Got this one at 29.98. And I'm going to hold off the 29. If this really can get moving, maybe it gets to the 32s, up there towards the 33s. We'll see what happens here on the SQQ trade. Definitely smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the stream and the action today. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. We got about 7 minutes left. If you guys got a ticker, throw it up, team. Let's keep it going. I think biotech is like the general's safety play in an uncertain market. No, the truth is that we've been seeing biotechs get a move, right? I mean, I've been calling out kind of like IBB for a little while now, right? And it has made a little bit of a move. But, I mean, you are starting to see some of these turn around. Like, look at Gilead. This doesn't look that great. It was starting to make a move. I was even watching this one. And then now you're seeing it, turn quickly around. VRTX is one that I'll keep an eye on. This one was one that we were watching when it was down here. It took off in March and in April. And now we're looking at it, and it's starting to top out a little bit. Regeneron hanging out here, hasn't taken that next step up. Moderna wanting lower here. Of course, we heard what happened with the COVID vaccines for Pfizer. Moderna could take a hit off of that too. And we'll just have to keep watch. Doesn't mean that all of them are going to get hit. No, but also I'm starting to see a little bit of a turnaround. Even though we got Lilly pushing higher. Look how Johnson & Johnson in the red today, starting to pull back a little bit. So be careful out there with drug manufacturers, some of the biotech names. I know that we've had a nice run, and I was looking for that run, but now I'm starting to see that slowly turn around, and that's why I'm keeping an eye on it. But like always, you guys make your own investment advice. Let's get to some of those stocks you guys wanted to take a look at. SMCI, I did see that one earlier. Super Microcomputers, really nice move today. Look at this nice little breakout. Was a nice looking chart. Above the 115s was the levels we were looking at this morning in the pre-market. You guys see that nice little break. It went to 114, right back through that 115, and then next candle goes to 114.32s, right back through that 115, giving you opportunities there on the pullbacks. Even the next candle, the next 5-minute candle, went towards 115.21 after it just broke above that 115, pulled back, and then really took off there to the 135s. Really nice earnings on this one. And this one was interesting because the earnings themselves were a miss and a miss, but the guidance forward was looking great, right? And I think that's very important. I can go ahead and also give you guys those numbers. EPS of $2.21 to $2.71 on the high end versus a $2.09 estimate. Also, for the revenue outlook, they gave it up to 1.9 billion versus 1.65 billion estimate. And then also for the year, they gave it an outlook for the fiscal year 23 to $11 on the high end versus $10.25 on the estimate. So things like this will definitely help a company like Super Microcomputers get that next step up. Now, the only question is, can this one just continue the trend? It's been an absolute monster. And the Christian Fromhertz favorite, there you guys see it taking off there towards the 133s. And we'll see if this can keep moving. All right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at some other ones. Nikola had a new partnership this morning. I did catch that. I forgot the company that it was with, Armor Plates, so you can do a little research to see that company that they had that partnership with. And that gave them a little bit of a lift, right? I think it was for hydrogen stations. So we'll see what happens. Nikola, you know how I feel about this, right, man? I mean, at the end of the day, it's Nikola. They're never going to make it back. At least in my eyes, I never see this company coming back. This would literally rip my face off if I saw it come back. So we'll see what happens on Nikola. I think it's a 0, but hey, to each his own. We'll see what happens. All right, let's keep pushing out there. What other ones are being mentioned in the chat? Let's keep it going. Kudos to the Crow. Yes, kudos to the Crow out there. My man Crow. I always like Crow, man. He works hard out there, and I think he's been working hard on trying to help us out, call out stocks that he likes. And like always, guys, you guys take it with a grain of salt. You take my outlook with a grain of salt, and then choose your own investment advice and learn from our strengths and weakness. That's the top. All right, let's keep going. What else? There one's being mentioned. What are you saying about Nike? Let's take a look, Tommy. We were watching this one before. I like this one when it started getting a nice little up move through this trend line. Now it's been holding that trend line. So at least this looks good as it starts to build, right? Now you're running into resistance above around the 128s. We want to see it take out that 130. If it takes out that 130, starts going up towards 138, it'll be looking a lot better. Nike overall doesn't look too bad. DEC is one that I keep an eye out. I just want to see that one continue to rise. Let's take a look at some other ones. How's Foot Locker doing? This one's not doing the best here. How Crocs? Crocs getting the bounce yet? No, it's not getting the bounce. So just be careful, right? Because if we start to see a real recession concern, Nike could get affected by that. Right now, I don't think it is. It did come down today, but making its way back. The only problem is be careful because, if we come back towards this 124, I won't be feeling so confident. But nice recovery today, back towards the 128, and we'll keep an eye on it. All right, what else is being talked about in the chat? Jay Rice, Nikola, why not Mullen? Oh, Jay, you don't hold back, man. That's one thing I know you don't, man. Uber, let's take a look. Uber, nice little lift here. I know that Zunaid was trading this one earlier today, and Zunaid was on our live trading stream taking some trades on Uber. And I like how this one pulled back and then really started to lift. Did I think it was going to do this day 2 move? Nah, I probably didn't think so. But this goes to show me that, yeah, lift is going bye-bye, man. It'll probably go bye-bye. It's hanging on by a thread, but I don't think this is going to make its way back. Uber is definitely the one you want there. The only question is this gone too far, too fast? And I think it has. It definitely ran into resistance today, but blew right through it around the 37.50 area. But as you can see, we're right above that. If we crack below the 37.50s, let's see if it acts as support or does it cut through on the downside. IMDN, one of my biggest myths today. I loved when it was at the 1050 level in the early part of the day, and then it recovered right back towards the 12s. This one wasn't too bad. This one was pre-market look. I could see this right here, right? 1060s by 1004, right? In the pre-market. Then when the market opened, we did get a little bit of a downturn, but quickly got right back up there. So one thing that we can look for is when it gets above that and it cuts below it, can you get in somewhere in that range and look for it to take out the top side of that range again at 67. It went right into that range, came down to a low of 1031, the next candle 1040. So giving you multiple chances around the 1050 level. Pullback, VWAP was 1056, and then it took right back off to the upside. Not a bad one there. IMGN. We'll see if this one can continue lifting higher. Of course, this one was off of phase 3 data. It did take a huge leap up. Last time this stock has done this, it did come right back down. So be careful out there. We'll see what happens on IMGN. Next stop, it definitely ran into some resistance right around the 1225 range. We'll see if it can get back into that spot. And you can see today it struggled around that 1026. We can raise it up towards maybe 1250s as the resistance right now. And we'll see if this one can keep working higher. Top, I got you. Armored plates. You want one more? You get it, my friend. Looks like Armored wants his stocks covered. If you guys want stocks covered, throw them up in the chat. If not, Armored, you get the calls. I don't blame you. Top making another move to the upside, and definitely one that's going to be on the radar. This thing went absolute bonkers the other day, and now not having a bad day. It is up significant and holding the VWAP. Up 1, down 1, up 2, down 2, up 3. I'd look for one more pullback, at least for me, on this end, and then look for the rip. We'll see what happens here. If this one can get through these highs, now you're seeing up 1, down 1, up 2, down 2, up 3. I'd look for a move back into this zone for a purchase myself. We'll see what happens if it comes back into that. And I'll actually even set an alert there around the 74.41s to see if I can get it tomorrow and get it through the 90. We'll see what happens there on top. All right, it's over 4 o'clock. I went 2 minutes overtime. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I haven't been feeling the best, so I need to get some rest and be back in the morning. So you guys, like always, hit the thumbs up. I will see you guys bright and early on Pre-Market Prep. Hit the like button, and I'll see you guys on Pre-Market Prep. Don't forget, seems like this market is getting tougher by the day, and a lot of it on the bank's concerns. Now, the questions you need to ask yourself: are we going to all-time highs? How do you feel about the regional banks and the banking situation? And is this too much of a scare so that the market kind of turns around? That's what I think will happen. We'll see what happens. Definitely a turnaround here towards the end. And smash the like, team. We'll see you bright and early.